Weather models take up a lot of our screen time in our forecasts, especially during hurricane season. I've already explained how they work in a previous moment of science, but to put it simply, weather models predict what may happen in the future by solving complex mathematical equations over and over again. Supercomputers do the heavy lifting, but calculating the forecast is still a process, with some steps more valuable than others.
One of the most important parts of the computer models is the initial conditions, and those are the observations that go into the computer models.
Much like in life, you get what you put in.
The more data that we get into the computer models, the better the initial conditions are, and then the better the forecast will be as we take those initial conditions and we project them out through time.
As such, meteorologists gather as many weather observations as possible on the ground, up in the air, on land, and at sea. You might be surprised where some of these weather observations come from.
Cruise ships, for instance, give us a lot of weather data over data-sparse areas over the oceans. Commercial airliners carry equipment that allow them to send information in from the surface all the way up to cruising altitudes at 35,000 feet. And that's a very important source of data.
Oh, right.
I would not recommend right now, virtually anywhere, to be doing any airplane traveling right now.
With less airlines, with less flying going on, that is having an impact on the amount of data that's getting into the computer models.
A recent study found a significant deterioration in forecasts from March to May due to the reduction of air traffic and cruise lines. Most notably, aircraft observations have dropped by 50 to 75% in the 3-month span. These impacts were reduced in North America as we have lots of other ways to gather weather information other than aircraft, which compensates for that lost data. Areas without numerous weather stations or balloon launches, such as the oceans or remote areas such as Greenland or the Southern Hemisphere, were much more vulnerable. And before you ask,
this should have really no impact on hurricane forecasting whatsoever in the Atlantic Basin.
While tropical systems do form in these data-sparse areas, weather satellites and reconnaissance missions with Hurricane Hunter aircraft will continue to provide valuable weather information without any reduction in quality or quantity this season. The bottom line is that this pandemic has taught us a lot, including the importance of weather observations by showing us what happens when we lose what we've always had. For this week's Moment of Science, I'm Storm Team 2 meteorologist David Dixon.